Figure it out, Chloe. You're resourceful. My mother's words echoed in my head as I stared at the envelope in my hand. Inside was a check. $100. For my wedding. My sister Vanessa's wedding, which had happened 6 months earlier, had cost $60,000. I knew because my mother had told me, repeatedly, with pride. The venue, the dress, the flowers, the band, the photographer, everything had been perfect. Everything had been paid for. By our parents. Every single penny. And now, I was getting married, and my contribution from the same parents was $100 and a dismissive comment about being resourceful. I was standing in my childhood kitchen, the same kitchen where we'd had family dinners for 26 years, where I'd done my homework at the table, where I'd learned to bake cookies with my grandmother, where I'd celebrated every milestone until this one. Until it became clear that my milestones didn't matter the same way Vanessa's did. My name is Chloe Martinez. I'm 26 years old, and that night, the night I got that envelope, was the night I stopped being their daughter. Let me back up. I need you to understand how we got here. Vanessa is my younger sister by 3 years. She's 23. Always been the golden child, the pretty one, the charming one, the one who could do no wrong. I was the responsible one, the practical one, the one who worked hard because I didn't have the luxury of coasting on personality. Growing up, the difference in how we were treated was subtle at first. Vanessa got the bigger bedroom because she needed the space for all her things. I got the smaller room because I didn't mind. Vanessa got new clothes for school every year. I got hand-me-downs from cousins because I wasn't picky. Vanessa got piano lessons, dance classes, art camp. I got told we couldn't afford extras, maybe next year. But next year never came. Not for me. For Vanessa, next year always arrived right on schedule. When I turned 16, I asked for driving lessons. My parents said they'd think about it. When Vanessa turned 16 3 years later, they bought her a car. A used Honda, nothing extravagant, but a car, with insurance paid for a year. When I asked about it, my father said Vanessa needed it more because she was involved in activities after school. Never mind that I'd been working part-time at a grocery store and could have actually used transportation. I bought my own car at 18, saved for 8 months, paid cash for a beat-up Toyota that barely ran. My parents didn't come to see it, didn't congratulate me, just noted that it was good I was so independent. College was the same story. I got into a good state school. My parents said they'd help, but I should apply for scholarships and loans to cover most of it. I did. Worked 2 jobs through college, graduated with $30,000 in debt. Vanessa went to a private liberal arts college. $45,000 a year. Our parents paid for all 4 years. When I asked why the difference, my mother said Vanessa needed the smaller class sizes to thrive, that she was more sensitive and needed the support, that I was strong enough to handle state school. Being strong apparently meant being worth less investment. After college, I got a job as a project manager at a tech company, worked my way up, made decent money, $65,000 a year by the time I was 25. Vanessa floated between jobs, worked at a boutique for 6 months, quit because the manager was mean, tried being a yoga instructor, that lasted 4 months, worked as a social media coordinator for a startup that went under. Never seemed to stick with anything. But our parents were always there to help with rent when she came up short, to cover her car payment when she couldn't make it, to supplement her income so she could maintain her lifestyle. I never asked them for money, partially because I knew they'd say no, partially because I had too much pride. I made my own way, And honestly, I was okay with it. I'd accepted that this was how our family worked. Vanessa was the favorite, I was the backup. The responsible one they didn't have to worry about because I'd figure it out on my own. Then I met James, 3 years ago. He was a software engineer at a different company. We met at a networking event, started dating, fell in love. He was kind, stable, supportive, everything I wanted. We moved in together after a year, started talking about marriage after 2. When we got engaged last year, I was 30 and James was 32. We saved up for the ring together. Nothing huge, but beautiful, meaningful. We told our families. James's parents were thrilled, threw us an engagement party. My parents said congratulations and asked when we were thinking of having the wedding. I said we were thinking next summer, wanted time to save up and plan. My mother nodded and said that sounded sensible. Then Vanessa got engaged, 2 months after me. Her boyfriend, Derek, had proposed on a beach in Mexico. Very romantic, very expensive. He came from money. His family was wealthy, real estate developers. And suddenly, my parents' focus shifted entirely to Vanessa's wedding. The planning started immediately. My mother took Vanessa to look at venues. They visited 10 places before settling on a country club with gardens and a ballroom. The deposit alone was $5,000. My mother paid it without blinking. The dress shopping was next. They went to 3 bridal salons. Vanessa tried on dozens of dresses, found the perfect one at a boutique downtown. $4,000 plus alterations. My mother handed over her credit card like it was nothing. I watched all this happen while planning my own wedding on a budget. James and I had decided on a small ceremony at a local park, reception at a nice restaurant, maybe 80 guests. We were trying to keep the whole thing under $15,000, saving every month, cutting costs where we could, DIY decorations, a friend who was a photographer offering a discount, another friend who was a baker making our cake as a gift. We were making it work. But every time I talked to my mother about our plans, she seemed distracted, disinterested, would redirect the conversation back to Vanessa's wedding, the flowers she'd chosen, the band they'd booked, the menu they were finalizing. Vanessa's wedding was set for June. Mine was planned for August. Plenty of time apart. But as Vanessa's wedding approached, it became clear that it was the only wedding my parents cared about, the only one that mattered. Vanessa's wedding day was perfect. Absolutely perfect. The venue was stunning, her dress was gorgeous, the flowers were elaborate, the food was incredible. The band played for 4 hours, there were 200 guests. My parents glowed with pride the entire day, gave speeches about how beautiful their daughter looked, how happy they were, how this was everything they dreamed of for her. I was there, maid of honor, wore the bridesmaid dress Vanessa had chosen, smiled for photos, gave a toast, watched my parents drop $60,000 on one day without a second thought, and started to feel a knot forming in my stomach. Because my wedding was 2 months away, and my parents hadn't asked about it once in the past 3 months. Hadn't asked about my dress, my venue, my plans, nothing. After Vanessa's wedding, after the honeymoon, after everything settled, I decided to talk to my parents. It was July. My wedding was 5 weeks away. I needed to know where they stood, if they were planning to contribute anything. I wasn't expecting $60,000, wasn't even expecting half that, but something, some acknowledgement that I was also their daughter getting married. I invited them to lunch, just the 3 of us. We met at a restaurant near their house, made small talk for a while, then I brought it up. So, my wedding is coming up soon, 5 weeks. I wanted to talk to you about it. My mother smiled. That's wonderful, dear. Are you excited? I am. James and I have been working hard on the planning. It's coming together nicely. That's good. You always were organized. Thanks. I paused, trying to find the right words. I wanted to ask if you'd thought about contributing anything to the wedding. My parents exchanged a glance. My father cleared his throat. Well, Chloe, you're doing fine financially. You have a good job. James has a good job. We didn't think you needed help. I understand we're doing okay, but Vanessa was also doing okay. Derek comes from money, and you paid for their entire wedding. My mother's smile tightened. Vanessa's situation was different. How? She's younger. She needed more support. She's 23. I'm 26. The age difference doesn't explain a $60,000 difference. My father's tone sharpened. We're not obligated to spend the same amount on both of you. Life isn't always equal. I felt my chest tighten. I'm not asking for the same amount. I'm asking for something, anything, some acknowledgement that I'm also your daughter getting married. My mother sighed. Chloe, you've always been so independent, so capable. You don't need us the way Vanessa does. So I get punished for being independent? That's not punishment. That's just reality. We have limited resources. We have to prioritize. And I'm not the priority. I never have been. That's not fair. It's true. My whole life, Vanessa has gotten everything handed to her, while I've had to work for every single thing. And now, on my wedding day, that pattern continues. You're being dramatic. Am I? Did you or did you not spend $60,000 on Vanessa's wedding? They were both quiet. That's what I thought. I stood up. You know what? Forget it. I don't need your money. I don't need anything from you. Chloe, sit down. No, I'm done. I walked out of that restaurant and didn't look back. Didn't answer when my mother called after me. Just got in my car and drove away. That was 3 weeks before my wedding. I didn't hear from them for 2 weeks. Then 1 week before my wedding, an envelope arrived in the mail. My mother's handwriting on the front. I opened it. Inside was a card. Generic wedding card from a drugstore and a check. $100. There was a note inside. Chloe, we thought about what you said. We want to contribute to your wedding. We know it's not much, but we hope it helps. Figure it out. You're resourceful. Love, Mom and Dad. I stared at that note for a long time. $100. After $60,000 for Vanessa. And that phrase, figure it out. Like I was a problem to be solved rather than a daughter to be celebrated. I called James at work, told him what happened. He was furious. That's insulting, Chloe. I know. Are you okay? No, I'm really not. What do you want to do? I don't know, but I need to think. That night, after James went to bed, I sat in our living room and really processed what had happened. Not just the check, but everything. A lifetime of being second, of being the one who had to figure it out while Vanessa got everything figured out for her. A lifetime of being told I was capable, independent, strong, as though those were reasons to give me less rather than celebrate me more. And I realized something. If I had a traditional wedding with my parents there, they would make it about themselves, about how they'd done their best, about how I was being ungrateful for not appreciating their $100 contribution. They'd probably tell people they'd helped with my wedding, glossing over the specifics. And I'd have to smile and pretend everything was fine. I couldn't do it. I couldn't have them at my wedding. Couldn't watch them sit there while I pretended their presence was enough. So I made a decision. James and I were going to elope. Not the wedding we had planned. Not the 80 guests, the restaurant reception, the whole thing we'd been working toward. Just us. And we were going to do it without telling anyone. We'd figure out the logistics later. But first, I needed to disappear. I woke James up, told him my plan. He was hesitant at first, worried about the guests we'd already invited, the deposits we'd lose. But when I explained how I felt, he understood. He agreed. We'd elope. We'd do with everything else after. The next morning, I started canceling. Called the restaurant, lost our deposit, but canceled the reception. Called our photographer friend, apologized profusely, explained we were changing plans. Called the baker, called everyone we could. Most people were understanding, if confused. That night, we packed bags, just enough for a week. We decided to drive to Colorado. get married in the mountains. Something simple and beautiful, and ours. We'd leave at 2 in the morning, drive through the night, be gone before anyone realized. I left my phone on, didn't want people to worry, but I didn't tell anyone where we were going. At 1 in the morning, I couldn't sleep. Too much adrenaline, too many emotions. I sat down and wrote 3 letters. 1 to my parents, 1 to Vanessa, 1 to my extended family and friends explaining what we'd done. The letter to my parents was the hardest. I wrote and rewrote it 5 times. Finally settled on something that felt true. Mom and Dad, by the time you read this, James and I will be married. We decided to elope. We're going somewhere private, just the 2 of us. I need you to understand why. The $100 you sent wasn't just insulting because of the amount. It was insulting because of what it represented. A lifetime of me being an afterthought. A lifetime of Vanessa being the priority, while I was expected to figure it out on my own. I'm done figuring it out. I'm done being the daughter you don't have to worry about because I'm so capable. I'm done watching you pour money and attention into Vanessa while I get scraps and dismissal. You spent $60,000 on her wedding without hesitation. You sent me $100 and told me to be resourceful. That told me everything I needed to know about how you value me. So I'm making a choice. I'm choosing myself. I'm choosing my marriage. I'm choosing a wedding day that isn't tainted by your favoritism and my resentment. I don't know what our relationship looks like after this. Maybe we can rebuild something. Maybe we can't. But right now, I need distance. I need to start my marriage without the weight of your disappointment and my anger. I hope someday you understand. Chloe. I sealed the letters, left them on the kitchen counter. At 2 in the morning, James and I loaded the car. One last look at our apartment. Then we drove away, heading west, into our future, away from my past. The drive to Colorado took 12 hours. We drove through the night and into the next day. Barely stopped except for gas and coffee. Talked the whole time. About our future. About what we wanted our marriage to look like. About building something different from what I'd grown up with. We arrived in Estes Park in the afternoon. Found a small inn with a vacancy. Checked in, slept for a few hours. That evening we walked around the town. Found a wedding chapel that did simple ceremonies. Booked one for the next morning. Bought rings at a local jewelry store. Nothing expensive, just simple bands that meant something. The ceremony was perfect, just us and the officiant. We wrote our own vows, promised to choose each other every day, to build a life based on love and respect and equality, to never make each other fight for basic consideration. I cried through the whole thing, not sad tears, relief, joy, freedom. We were married, and it was ours. No one else's expectations, no one else's judgment, just us. After the ceremony, we had lunch at a small restaurant, toasted with champagne, took photos by the mountains. It was simple and beautiful and everything I wanted. That evening, I finally checked my phone. 73 missed calls, over 100 text messages, most from my mother, then my father, then Vanessa, then extended family, then friends, everyone wanting to know where I was, what had happened, if I was okay. I read through some of the messages. My mother's started concerned. "Chloe, where are you? Please call." Then confused. "We got your letter. What are you doing?" Then angry. "This is incredibly selfish. How could you do this to your family?" My father's were shorter but similar in tone. "Call us immediately. This is unacceptable. We need to talk." Vanessa's were interesting. Started sympathetic. "Chloe, I understand you're upset, but running away isn't the answer." Then defensive. "You're making this about me when it's not. I didn't ask them to spend that much on my wedding." Then angry. "You're ruining everything with your drama. Just come home and stop being ridiculous." I didn't respond to any of them. Not that night. James and I had dinner at the inn, sat on the porch watching the sunset over the mountains, held hands, breathed. We stayed in Colorado for a week, hiked, explored small towns, took photos, just existed as newly married people without the weight of family drama. It was the best week of my life. But eventually, we had to go home, had to face reality. The drive back was quieter than the drive there, both of us processing what came next. We arrived home on a Sunday evening, walked into our apartment. Everything was as we'd left it, except now we were different. Married. Changed. The messages on my phone had continued throughout the week, slowed down but hadn't stopped. My mother had left voicemails. "Chloe, you need to come home and talk to us. This has gone on long enough. Your father and I are very hurt by what you've done." I finally listened to all of them, all the voicemails, all the texts. And I noticed something. Not once did anyone apologize. Not once did anyone acknowledge why I'd left. It was all about how my actions had hurt them, how I'd been selfish, how I'd embarrassed them, how I needed to fix this. No one seemed to consider that maybe I'd been hurt, that maybe they'd been selfish, that maybe they needed to fix something. On Monday, I went back to work, told my boss what happened. She was understanding, happy for me. A few coworkers knew about the original wedding plan, were confused about the change. I explained briefly, got mostly supportive responses. That evening, my mother showed up at our apartment. James answered the door. "Mrs. Martinez?" "Hello, James. I need to speak with Chloe." I came to the door. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk. I've been trying to reach you all week." "I know. Can I come in?" I hesitated, then stepped aside. She came in, sat on our couch, looked around like she was evaluating our home, hadn't been here in months. Finally turned to me. "I don't understand what you've done, Chloe. You disappeared without warning, ran off to get married in secret. Do you have any idea how humiliating this has been for your father and me?" "Humiliating for you?" "Yes. We've had to tell everyone that you eloped, had to field questions about why, had to deal with people's judgment. And you didn't think about my humiliation? About opening an envelope expecting support and finding $100? That's what this is about? The money? It's about what the money represents. We've been through this. We explained our reasoning. You said you have limited resources and had to prioritize. And you prioritized Vanessa. Again, like you always do. That's not true. We love you both equally. Love isn't just a feeling, Mom. It's actions. It's how you treat people. And your actions have always shown that Vanessa matters more." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "How can you say that?" "Because it's true. My entire life, she's gotten more. More attention, more support, more money, more everything. And I've been expected to just accept it because I'm capable, because I can figure it out. You've always been independent. Yes, because I had to be, because you gave me no choice. If I'd waited for you to prioritize me, I'd still be waiting. We did our best. Your best was $60,000 for Vanessa and $100 for me. Your best was telling me to figure it out while holding Vanessa's hand through everything. Your best wasn't good enough." She stood up, angry now. "I came here hoping we could work this out, but clearly you're determined to play the victim. I'm not playing anything. I'm stating facts. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference." She walked to the door, turned back. "When you're ready to apologize for how you've hurt this family, we can talk. Until then, I think we need space." "You want me to apologize? For what? For eloping? For choosing myself? For refusing to pretend everything is fine when it's not? For all of it? You've damaged our family, Chloe, all because you couldn't let go of your jealousy of Vanessa. This isn't jealousy. This is self-preservation." She left, slammed the door. I stood there shaking. James came over, held me. "You okay?" "No, but I will be."
Over the next few weeks, I didn't hear from my parents. Vanessa texted a few times, mostly angry messages about how I'd made everything about me, how I'd hurt mom and dad, how I needed to grow up and get over myself. I didn't respond. What was the point? She'd never understand. She'd never had to fight for attention or support or basic consideration.
My extended family was split. Some reached out supportively, congratulated us on our marriage, said they understood family dynamics could be complicated. Others sided with my parents, sent messages about respecting your elders and family coming first. I ignored those, started to realize how many relationships in my life had been based on obligation rather than genuine connection. James's family was wonderful, threw us a small reception party, just close friends and his relatives, celebrated our marriage properly, with love and joy and no judgment. It was healing, showed me what family could be when it wasn't toxic. 2 months after we eloped, I got a call from my grandmother, my father's mother. She was 85 and had always been kind to me. "Chloe, dear, I heard about your wedding. Congratulations." "Thank you, Grandma. I wanted to talk to you about your parents." "Okay. I know things are difficult right now, but I want you to know something. You weren't wrong." "About what?" "About the favoritism. I've watched it for years. Your mother and father have always treated Vanessa differently, given her more, expected less, and they've expected you to just accept it. It's not right. It never has been. Thank you for saying that. I thought I was going crazy sometimes. You're not, and I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself, even if it's hard, even if it means losing some relationships. You deserve better than what they've given you." That conversation meant more than she knew. Validation from someone I respected, someone who'd watched it all happen. It helped. 3 months after the elopement, my mother called, asked if we could meet, talk. I almost said no, but James encouraged me to at least hear what she had to say. So I agreed. We met at the same restaurant where everything had fallen apart months earlier. Full circle. My mother looked older, tired. She sat down across from me, ordered coffee. We were silent for a moment. Then she spoke. "I've been thinking about what you said, about the favoritism. And I think maybe you're right, about some of it." "Some of it?" "Mom, it's not some of it. It's all of it. My whole life." "I know you feel that way." "I don't just feel that way. It's objective reality. You spent $60,000 on Vanessa's wedding and gave me $100. That's not a feeling. That's a fact." She looked down at her coffee. "We made mistakes. You made choices. Choices that told me I don't matter as much as Vanessa. And when I called you on it, you got angry at me instead of examining your behavior. That's not fair. What's not fair is telling me to figure it out while you hand Vanessa everything. What's not fair is expecting me to be grateful for scraps. What's not fair is me having to justify my hurt while you get to avoid accountability. What do you want from me, Chloe? An apology? An acknowledgement? Something that shows you understand what you did? I'm sorry you felt hurt. That's not an apology. That's you apologizing for my feelings instead of your actions. Fine. I'm sorry we didn't give you the same wedding Vanessa got. Better, but not enough. What else? I need you to acknowledge the pattern, not just the wedding, everything. The attention, the money, the support, the expectations. I need you to acknowledge that you treated us differently our entire lives, and that it was wrong." She was quiet for a long time. Then, "I suppose we did favor Vanessa in some ways." "In some ways?" "Mom, come on. You did favor her, consistently, for 26 years. "Okay, yes, we favored her. Why?" "She was easier." "Easier?" "She needed us more. She was more fragile." So you punished me for being strong? We didn't see it as punishment, but that's what it was. Every time you gave her more because I could handle less, every time you expected me to figure it out because I was capable, that's punishment for being independent. I never thought about it that way. Maybe you should have. We're not perfect, Chloe. We made mistakes, but we love you. I don't doubt that you love me, but love isn't enough when your actions don't match your words. What do you want me to do? I want you to genuinely try to understand what you did, not just apologize to make me feel better. Really understand. Really examine your behavior. Really commit to changing. I can try. That's all I'm asking. We talked for another hour. It wasn't perfect. She didn't suddenly become a different person. But it was a start. A real start. A recognition that there was a problem. That was more than I'd had before. 6 months after the elopement, my sister reached out. Asked if we could meet. Just the two of us. I was hesitant, but agreed. We met at a coffee shop. She looked nervous, sat down across from me, ordered tea, fidgeted with her cup. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "For what?" "For not understanding, for getting defensive, for making it about me when it wasn't. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about the favoritism, and I think you're right. I didn't see it before, didn't want to see it. But looking back, yeah, they did treat us differently. Thank you for saying that. I benefited from it, from the favoritism. I didn't ask for it, didn't demand it, but I also didn't question it, just accepted it as normal, and that made me complicit. I appreciate you acknowledging that. I'm sorry I made you feel like your feelings weren't valid. Sorry I accused you of being dramatic or jealous. You had every right to be upset. Thank you. Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you think we can fix this? Our relationship?" "I don't know. I'd like to try, but it has to be different. Equal. Real. Not based on family obligation, but genuine connection. I want that too. I've missed you. I've missed who we could have been without all the family dynamics in the way. Maybe we can figure that out now." Maybe. Over the next year, things slowly changed. My mother started making more effort, called to ask about my life, actually listened when I talked, started treating James and me like a unit rather than an afterthought, started making small gestures that showed she was trying. My father was slower, more stubborn, but eventually, even he started to soften, started to acknowledge that maybe they'd made mistakes, that maybe I had a point. Vanessa and I started rebuilding, slowly, carefully. Coffee once a month became dinner every few weeks, became actually having real conversations. 2 years after the elopement, we all went to therapy, family therapy. It was my condition for continuing to work on these relationships. If they wanted me in their lives, we needed professional help to navigate this. They agreed. We worked with a therapist for 6 months, unpacked decades of dynamics. It was hard, painful. There were sessions where we all cried, sessions where we yelled, sessions where I wanted to walk out. But we kept showing up, kept trying. The therapist helped my parents see how their actions had affected me, helped them understand the concept of differentiation, how treating children differently doesn't mean you love them differently, but how kids internalize those differences as being about worth. She helped Vanessa understand her role in the dynamic, how her acceptance of favoritism had enabled it, how her defensive responses had minimized my pain. She helped me understand that while my anger was valid, holding on to it forever would only hurt me. That forgiveness wasn't about excusing their behavior, but about freeing myself from the weight of resentment. 3 years after the elopement, my parents did something unexpected. They wrote me a check for $30,000. I stared at it, confused. "What's this?" "Your father and I talked. We can't give you the wedding we gave Vanessa. That's in the past. but we can try to make things more equitable going forward. This is half of what we spent on her wedding. We want you to have it, for whatever you want. A house down payment, an investment, whatever makes sense for you and James. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. We don't expect gratitude. We don't expect this to fix everything. We just want you to know that we hear you, that we're trying, that we understand we got it wrong for a long time, and we want to do better. Thank you. It's a start. That's all we're asking for. A start. 4 years after the elopement, Vanessa got divorced. Derek had been cheating. She was devastated. And this time, when she needed support, our parents didn't just throw money at the problem. They listened. They helped her find a good therapist. They encouraged her to build her own life, her own independence. They treated her like an adult who could handle hard things. She rose to the occasion, got a job she actually stuck with, started paying her own bills, built a life that wasn't dependent on anyone else. And our relationship got stronger, because for the first time, we were on equal footing. Both adults, both capable, both valued. 5 years after the elopement, James and I bought a house, used the money my parents had given us for the down payment, invited everyone to a housewarming party. My parents came, Vanessa came, extended family, friends. It was the first time in 5 years that we'd all been together in one place. And it was okay. Not perfect. There was still history, still hurt that had healed but left scars. But it was okay. We could be in a room together, could celebrate something together. That was progress. During the party, my mother pulled me aside. "I'm proud of you, Chloe." For what? For standing up for yourself, for not accepting less than you deserved, for teaching us to be better. It took me running away in the middle of the night for you to learn that lesson. It did. And I'm sorry it had to come to that. But I'm grateful you did it, because you were right. We were wrong. And if you hadn't forced us to confront that, we might never have changed. Better late than never, I suppose. Much better. She hugged me, and for the first time in maybe my entire life, it felt genuine. Felt like she was seeing me, really seeing me, not as the capable one, not as the one who could figure it out, just as her daughter, worth as much as Vanessa, worth attention and support and celebration. That night, after everyone left, James and I stood in our new house, our home, built with money from my parents, but also from our hard work, our savings, our choices. How do you feel? Honestly, good. Really good. Better than I expected? Yeah, I thought having them here might bring up all the old stuff. And it did. But it didn't overwhelm me. The old stuff is still there, but it's not defining everything anymore. That's growth. It is. Think you'll ever fully forgive them? I don't know. Maybe not. But I don't need to forgive them to have a relationship with them. I just need them to understand what they did and keep trying to do better. And are they? They are. Slowly. Imperfectly, but they are. Then that's enough. Yeah, it is. 6 years after the elopement, we celebrated our anniversary. 6 years since we drove away in the middle of the night, since we chose ourselves over expectation, since we started building something new. We went back to Colorado, to Estes Park, stayed at the same inn, walked to the same chapel where we'd gotten married. We stood outside and remembered. We were so scared that day, I said. We were, but also brave. Did you ever regret it? Running away like that? Not once. Not even a little. Me neither. It was the right choice. The only choice. It forced everything to change. Forced everyone to face what had been ignored for so long. Do you think you would have eventually cut them off if you hadn't eloped? Maybe not. I might have just kept accepting it, kept trying to make it work, kept telling myself it wasn't that bad. And now? Now I know I deserve better. And they know it too. That's everything. It is. We took photos by the mountains. Same spot as 6 years ago. In the first photo, we were young and scared and running. In this one, we were older and settled and free. Both versions were us. Both versions mattered. That night over dinner, I said something I'd been thinking about for a while. I want to thank you. For what? For supporting me that night? For agreeing to elope when it wasn't what we'd planned? For driving through the night with me? For building this life with me? For never once making me feel like I was overreacting or being too sensitive? You weren't overreacting. You were setting boundaries. And I'll always support you in that. I know. And that means everything. We clinked glasses, toasted to 6 years. To the choices we'd made, to the life we'd built. 7 years after the elopement, I got pregnant. We hadn't been trying actively, but we weren't preventing it either. When I saw the positive test, I cried. Happy tears, scared tears, everything at once. I told James first, then we decided how to tell our families. I called my mother, told her over the phone. She cried, happy tears. Asked if she could come over, bring my father. I said yes. They came that evening, brought flowers, hugged me, hugged James. My mother held my hands. I'm so happy for you, both of you. Thank you. You're going to be an amazing mother. I hope so. You will be. You're strong and capable and loving. Everything a child needs. I felt tears start. That's the first time you've said being strong and capable is a good thing, not a reason to give me less. She squeezed my hands. I know. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand that. But I do now. I do understand. Good. Because this baby is going to have a grandmother who shows up, who values them, who doesn't pick favorites. I promise you that. I'll do better with this grandchild. I'll do better with you, too. Keep doing better. We are. We will. My daughter was born in March. We named her Eleanor, after my grandmother, the one who'd validated me, who'd seen the favoritism and acknowledged it, who'd been proud of me for standing up for myself. She'd passed away 2 years earlier, but her name lived on. My parents were at the hospital, both of them. Waited in the waiting room, came in to meet Eleanor an hour after she was born. My mother held her and cried. She's perfect. She is. I'm so proud of you, Chloe. For everything. For building this life. For giving us another chance. For teaching us to be better. Thank you, Mom.
Vanessa came the next day, brought flowers and a teddy bear, held Eleanor gently. She's beautiful. Thank you. Can I tell you something? Of course. Watching you become a mother, after everything you've been through with Mom and Dad, it makes me realize how strong you really are, how you're going to break cycles, how you're going to give Eleanor something different than what we had. I'm going to try. You will, and I'm going to be the best aunt, the kind that shows up, the kind that treats her like she matters. Good, because she deserves that. All kids deserve that. 8 years after the elopement, life had settled into something I never thought possible. Regular family dinners where I didn't feel like the afterthought. Holidays that didn't trigger resentment. A relationship with my parents that, while not perfect, was honest, real, based on mutual effort rather than obligation. Vanessa and I were close now, really close. She'd remarried, a good man this time, kind and stable. They were talking about having kids. She asked me for advice about parenting, about setting boundaries, about making sure she didn't repeat our parents' mistakes. I gave it freely, happy to help, happy to see her growing. One evening, 8 years to the day after we disappeared in the middle of the night,
James and I sat on our back porch. Eleanor was asleep inside. The house was quiet. We were drinking wine and watching the sunset. "Remember this day 8 years ago?" I asked. How could I forget? 2 in the morning, packed bags, driving into the unknown. Would you do it again? Knowing how hard it would be? Knowing how long it would take to rebuild? In a heartbeat. Really? Really. Because that night was the night I chose myself. The night I refused to keep accepting less than I deserved. And everything good in my life now came from that choice. Everything. Our marriage, this house, Eleanor, the relationship I have with my family now, imperfect as it is, it all started with me saying enough. That's powerful. It is. And I want Eleanor to know that story someday, when she's old enough to understand. I want her to know that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who don't value you, even if they're family, even if it's hard, even if it means starting over. That's a good lesson. It's the most important lesson. You don't have to accept less. You don't have to shrink yourself. You don't have to figure it out alone while others get help. You can demand better. And if they can't give it to you, you can build better for yourself. Did you ever imagine we'd end up here when we were driving that night? No. I thought maybe we'd lose them forever, that maybe I'd spend the rest of my life estranged from my entire family. And would that have been okay if it had turned out that way? It would have been hard, but yes, it would have been okay, because I'd have had you, I'd have had my self-respect, I'd have had a life built on my terms rather than their expectations. That's enough. That is enough, but I'm glad it worked out differently, that they were willing to change, that we could rebuild. Me too. Not everyone gets that chance. No, not everyone does. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then James said, "You know what the best part of all this is?" "What?" "You're free." "From what?" "From the need to prove yourself, from the constant comparison to Vanessa, from the weight of trying to earn something that should have been freely given. You're just you now, and that's enough. That's more than enough." I felt tears start. You're right. I am free, and it feels incredible. Good, because you deserve to feel incredible. You deserve everything. I leaned against him, looked out at our backyard, our home, our life built from the ashes of that night 8 years ago, when I'd stood in my childhood kitchen with a $100 check and made a choice. The choice to disappear, the choice to choose myself, the choice to demand better or build better on my own. It had been the hardest choice of my life, and the best one. 9 years after the elopement, my parents did something that surprised me. They sat Vanessa and me down, said they wanted to talk about their will, about inheritance, about making sure things were equitable. "We've been thinking about the future," my father said, "about what happens when we're gone." "Okay," I said cautiously. "We want to make sure everything is split evenly between you two. The house, the savings, everything. 50-50. No favoritism, no questions." "That's fair," Vanessa said. "I agree. But there's something else," my mother added. "We know we made mistakes. We know we gave Vanessa more over the years. More money, more support, more everything. We can't undo that, but we want to acknowledge it, formally." She handed me a document. I read through it. It was a letter, signed by both of them, notarized, acknowledging the financial disparity over the years, estimating that they'd given Vanessa approximately $150,000 more than they'd given me over our lifetimes. The wedding, the college tuition, the car, the rent help, all of it added up. The letter stated that upon their deaths, I would receive an additional $150,000 from the estate before anything was split, to make things equal, to acknowledge the imbalance, to make amends. I stared at the letter. "You did this?" "We did." "Why?" "Because you were right. About all of it.
And we want to make sure that even after we're gone, you know that we understood, that we tried to make it right. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just know that we see it. We see what we did, and we're sorry. Thank you. This means more than you know. We hope so. We hope it helps, even a little.
10 years after the elopement, we celebrated. A full decade since that night, since the drive through the darkness, since the mountain wedding, since everything changed. We threw a party, invited everyone, friends, family, everyone who'd been part of the journey. My parents were there, smiling, genuine. Vanessa and her husband, their new baby. Extended family who'd supported us or come around eventually. It was everything. During the party, I gave a speech. 10 years ago today, I did something that felt impossible. I chose myself over expectation. I walked away from a situation that was hurting me, and I built something new. It wasn't easy. There were years of hard conversations, of therapy, of slowly rebuilding trust. But it was worth it, because I learned something crucial. You teach people how to treat you, and for too long, I'd taught my family that I'd accept less, that I'd figure it out, that I didn't need the same care and attention and support as everyone else. When I stopped teaching them that, when I demanded better, everything changed. Some of them rose to the occasion, some didn't, but the ones who did, the ones who were willing to examine their behavior and change, they're here today, and I'm grateful. This marriage, this life, this family we've built, it all started with one brave choice in the middle of the night. So here's to brave choices, to demanding better, to refusing to settle, to building the life you deserve. Everyone raised their glasses, cheered. My mother was crying, happy tears this time. My father nodded at me, approval, respect. Vanessa hugged me, whispered, "I'm proud of you." Eleanor tugged my dress. "Mama, why is everyone crying?" "Because they're happy, sweetheart." "Why?" "Because sometimes being happy makes people cry." "That's silly." "It is a little silly, but it's also beautiful." Later that night, after everyone had left, after Eleanor was asleep, James and I stood in our kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd sealed those letters 10 years ago, where I'd made the choice to leave. "You did it," he said. "Did what?" "Built something beautiful from something broken." We did it. Together. Together. Would you change anything? About that night? About any of it? Not a single thing. Even the hard parts? Especially the hard parts, because they led to this, to us, to the family we have now, to Eleanor, to the relationships we've rebuilt, to the respect we've earned. All of it was necessary. All of it mattered. You're remarkable, you know that? I'm just someone who refused to accept less than I deserved. That's what makes you remarkable. I smiled, pulled him close. 10 years, an entire decade since that night, since the $100 check, since figure it out, since the decision to disappear. I'd figured it out all right, just not the way they'd expected. I'd figured out that I was worth more, that I deserved better, that I could demand change or create it myself. I'd figured out that sometimes love means walking away until the people who claim to love you learn to show it properly. I'd figured out that family isn't just about blood, it's about respect and effort and showing up. I'd figured out that the bravest thing you can do is value yourself enough to leave situations that devalue you, even if it's scary, even if it's hard, even if it means starting over in the middle of the night with nothing but your partner and your self-respect. 10 years later, I was standing in a kitchen in a home I owned, surrounded by family who valued me, married to a man who supported me, raising a daughter who'd never have to choose between herself and her family's approval, because I'd made sure she'd have both. I'd figured it out, and it had been worth every difficult moment, every hard conversation, every tear, every fear, all of it, every single bit. Because on the other side of that $100 check and that midnight drive was freedom, was peace, was the life I'd always deserved but had been too scared to claim until I wasn't scared anymore, until I was brave, until I disappeared into the night and found myself on the other side.